Before we jump into this video, it's worth noting that if you do buy any products from WorkLouder, they are non-refundable. So as soon as you press that buy button, you can't cancel the order and you can't return it. So make sure you watch the rest of this video to see if it's something you want to pick up. So I recently picked up one of these. It's the WorkLouder Creator Micro and Figma's collaboration. So I use Figma pretty much 365 days around a year, and I'm always looking for ways to be a little bit more efficient, which is the reason why I picked this thing up. And the objective of this is meant to help with your productivity, and I've now been using it for about 4 months. So let's see if it lives to the hype. So this little gadget is a micro keyboard, and basically it's got 20 fully programmable keys. So we've got 12 of these mechanical keys, and then we've got the scroll up and down. You can also press in on this, and then you've got clockwise and anti-clockwise, and you can also press that as well. And at the bottom, you've got a touchpad on either side. This version is the collaboration with Figma, but if you were to compare this to the original version that they've got, except for the colors, I don't think there's any difference in them whatsoever. Now, when you first get this thing and you open it up, it literally just has the keyboard in it. There's nothing else in the package. I got a clicky version, and the mechanical keys, they do feel really nice when you press them, and obviously they make a pretty nice noise. It's also really well built. It's got a really good weight to it, and also it's got a rubber ring at the bottom, which helps it from sliding around. So you can tell that it's really high quality. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this is not a wireless keyboard. I did initially think it was wireless because when you look at their website, nothing shows a cable, and all of the promotional material as well, a wire is not present. And on top of that, because it doesn't come with a USB-C cable, even though it's essential to make this thing work, I think it makes this a little bit misleading. And at this price point, I do really think they should be offering a USB-C to USB-C cable. I just think that's a unnecessary cost cut from the manufacturer, which is a bit of a shame. And because it's not wireless, sometimes I just don't really use it. So everything on my desk is completely wireless. My trackpad, Mac keyboard, and then I've also got a PC down here, which I've got another wireless keyboard for. And to complement that, I've got a wireless mouse. Even for the lights in my room, I've got a wireless remote to control the light. So everything is pretty much wireless on my desk setup, except for this little thing. So the setup is actually really simple and straightforward. You literally just plug it into your MacBook or your PC and you're good to go. On the back of the box, it does have a little QR code, and when you scan it, it gives you a bit of an instruction on what you need to do. It doesn't require you to install any other softwares for you to start using the macro keys, which I think is really neat, because throughout the years I've had quite a few different gaming keyboards, and in order for you to use the macro keys, you need to install their drivers, which just starts cluttering up your RAM space, and I don't really like having lots of different software installed on my laptop, especially on one where the primary focus is work. So all you need to get the buttons working is go on the website, and what you get is this cute little mascot just rolling left and right. And then when you press authorize device, your Creator Micro should come up. So when you click on it and press connect, the device will remember all of the different macros that it's been using. It basically just shows it through this web app. So VIA is not actually a WorkLouder specific application, and if you haven't used it before, it isn't the easiest thing to use. So for example, the UI, it's not that intuitive, and in addition to that, you kind of have to go to the website to figure out all the different keys, because there is a feature where you can record it. So you actually need to go into full screen mode to record it, but I don't think the recording is that accurate. It records you pressing down the keys and also letting go of the keys as well. But you can see I have already let go of the letter N, but it didn't record it. What's happened before when I was trying to record these macros is I was trying to press Command Option M, but it didn't record the M button being let go. So then just started typing M endlessly. So really the best thing for you to do is to just go to the basic key codes that they've got and look it all up. Nothing is that straightforward. So for example, if you want the Mac or the Windows key, it's KC_RGUI. Overall, it's not that bad. They're just using something that's open source to keep everything really lightweight, which I really appreciate. Now, if you go onto WorkLouder's website, they do provide some presets. You've got an iPad artist template, a UI UX designer template for PC and Mac. You've also got graphic design, video editing, and 3D modeler templates. And I don't actually think the template they offer is very useful. So if we look at their layout that they've provided, we've got a lot of the basic features that they're suggesting to have on your keyboard. The issue I find is, say for example, if we look at zoom in, zoom out. In order for you to zoom in, zoom out on Figma, it's really simple. You're just pinching in and out to zoom in, and it's very smooth as well. But if you use their template, it basically zooms in and out incrementally. So you're getting that old school stutter step to zoom in and out, which is not a great experience. I've basically not used any of these templates because it kind of leads into the problem of this keyboard. There are technically only 12 mechanical keys. I've been a Figma user since their alpha stage, and I pretty much know all of the primary shortcuts. And on my keyboard, I can pretty much reach all of the primary tools with my left hand. But if you're using your micro keyboard as your primary keys, because there aren't enough buttons here, you will just end up having to move from your micro keyboard to then back to your main keyboard and then back to your micro keyboard. So for me, the best way of using this micro keyboard has been to actually just assign some of the secondary keys where you need to click a few buttons in order for you to get that function. So if we look back at the setup that I've got, basically I've just got a few of the macro keys set up, and the first one is mask, which is positioned here. Second one is hide, and then the third one is lock layer. So those are the only three that I'm actually using. So the shortcut keys for these on Figma are actually pretty difficult to press. So having these assigned to the keyboard is definitely a plus. Some people I've spoken to, they are recommending create component on here as well, but I don't think that's as good neither, because at the top of Figma, you've got the create components shortcut key, and it's got 3 different options for you to choose really easily. I never really just create one component by itself. All the components I create are always as a set. So it doesn't really make sense to have a shortcut on the keyboard. And at the top, I've got M5 and M6. They basically just switch between tabs. And on the scroll wheel, I've actually got rearrange layers set. So a lot of the times you have to rearrange layers so that they stack in the right way. Especially if you're doing prototypes as well, you know, a lot of the times the transition is dependent on how your layers are structured. So having the scroll wheel for layers arrangement is pretty good. When you press in on the scroll wheel, it creates a new tab. It's okay, you know, I don't really use that. And any instance that I work with, I would never actually create a new tab because it stores it in your draft file. And you don't really want that, especially when you're working with different clients. You want to store it in the right place so it doesn't get lost. And then on the knob, I've got the undo and redo as suggested by the Figma template. So you might have noticed I haven't actually used all of the different macro keys. I think there's a tendency for people to want to assign something to each of these keys immediately. And I don't think that's necessary. I think the best way to start incorporating this little machine within your workflow is to just identify the keys that you most often use, put them onto the keyboard as and when you find them. What might happen if you just assign loads of keys to this keyboard straight off the bat is you don't actually remember where all of the buttons are positioned. Whereas for me, for the time being, I've remembered all of these so far, and when I need to use something specific, I know to reach for the keyboard and make use of those particular functions. And then gradually, as and when there are new features that I think might be useful to go on the keyboard, that's when I will assign it to the keyboard. Personally, this is the way that I find is efficient with this device. And previously, I've tried different templates. You know, they've got a little Discord community where people share their templates also, but because you're not familiar with them, it just makes you not want to use it, or you just end up making loads of mistakes on it. So you just resort back to your keyboard. So when you start establishing yourself, I think that's where this little device really comes in handy. So should you buy this keyboard if you're a designer? The best way for me to describe this is kind of like the keypad area here on your keyboard. You don't need it, but it's way easier for you to press numbers using this format rather than on top here. And I think that's what this is. You know, you can assign buttons onto the mini keyboard, and it does make your life a little bit better. But realistically, I don't think it's necessary for a designer to buy this. It's definitely a nice little gadget to have on your desk, but it's not going to change your life, and it definitely won't make you a better designer just because you have this.